you know if we're live? Who said that? Hi, Tracy. Okay, you guys, I'm going to let you finish your sentence that you're in right now. And then we're going to go ahead and get started so that I can be respectful of time this evening. I'm going to be in charge, which I know is something no one ever wants to hear. Could get fun. I'm Kelly Hartman. I'm the co-chair of the Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability. And my lovely co-chair, Cecilia, had a very last-minute commitment that pulls her away from here, so I told her I would make sure that you guys all stayed in line and that we get through the agenda okay without her, and she may be able to come a little bit later. We have a pretty cool agenda tonight. I'd like to welcome those of you who are listening online or live streaming. I will say that we cannot interact with you live, but you will be able to watch everything, and certainly you can send questions to either Cecilia or I at a later time, and we'd be happy to field those if you have questions about anything that we discussed tonight. So first, I'm going to invite Ryan Locke, Chief of Staff for the Indiana Treasurer's Office, up to talk about some developments with the Indiana Education Scholarship accounts.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, for sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan Locke with the Treasurer of State's Office, here to have what I think will be the first of probably many conversations as we get the Indiana Education Scholarship Account program up and running. I'm so grateful that Cecilia invited us to come and have an initial conversation about what this is, what it should do, what we hope it will do, and then hopefully get feedback from the community on how it can perform its function better. It's something that's new nationally. These accounts are, and I guess I could start there. What is it? Why is he up here talking about this? Well, an education scholarship account is set up by statute, is for K through 12 education for students with disabilities that are eligible under the statute from ages 5 to 22. What happens is they'll get a grant of money based on their tuition support calculation, 90% of that, plus whatever disability grant comes on top of that, to use to create their own educational plan. One of the keys here is that you have to disenroll from public school, so there's no double pulling of that tuition support fee. But that being said, we set it up in a way that from a statutory process, you could have services provided to you from those public schools back based on the relationships and process you put together. So the key things you got to know are how you are eligible, and there's a statutory just very basic definition on what that looks like. Again, it's students with between ages 5 and 22 who have an IEP or another service plan that's been approved by the state. Once eligibility is set up, there will be a contract that you'll do with our office, and we'll have a portal up that will have a lot more information in the next few months, moving into next year. And that will, after you set that horizon, then you pick basically from participating entities, which are the vendors that we will have approved beforehand, the services that you're looking to purchase for educational expenses. So again, on the eligibility front for a student, 5 to 22, used for K through 12 education, you then have to have a service plan provided by the state, and that gets you in the door and puts you on a path to decide if this type of school choice is right for your student or for you yourself. So looking at that then, what can I spend this on is the next category, qualified expenses. Right now it is moderately narrow, and part of that is we're trying to build the program, figure out rules, what we can do, what we can approve. One of the things about these programs nationwide is that they're new. 2011, the first one in Arizona was kicked off, so we're still learning a lot about how these work, how to make sure that money gets to families and can be made ready for expenses quickly. And we're starting to see how that works, and here in Indiana we've learned a lot about where it should go, and we think we're putting a pretty good foundation in. That being said, education is different everywhere. Educational needs are different for every family, so making sure that it's very, very functional and able to be used for whatever those expenses are, whatever that plan is, whether it's homeschool, private school, classes at specific institutions, that we're ready to onboard those vendors so that those qualified expenses can be paid to them and that education can be set up. So again, first 2 points are your eligibility on the front end and then the qualified expense list, which includes anything from tuition and fees, tuition for tutoring services, goes down to curriculum's not included yet, but that'll likely be fixed in the next legislative session to add the curriculum required to take those classes. And then it's got camps and other services to learn skills and other things that could be functionally good for education. So those are the qualified expenses. And then again, looking for those participating entities, those vendors is kind of our third wheelhouse here. We're gonna hopefully get out and find everybody we can, everybody that provides a service in this space for individuals, regardless of where they are or what they're learning around the state. Because they have to be approved by us to be on the list, to be able to be paid through this program. So one of the things we're going to get up running first on our side is that portal, and hopefully we can get a huge list of those participating entities, those service providers ready to go, so that then when families sign up next summer for the 2022-2023 school year, they'll have all the information they need to pick and see where services are being provided. Let's say you're looking for a specific type of equestrian therapy, that we have it set up in a way that you could search for that in your geographic location, and you could pick the 4 or 5 that could work, and you could reach out to them and figure out who you wanted to purchase through. So really that's the overview where we are. There aren't a ton of details out in the ecosystem yet because again, we're still trying to build it. We're still trying to figure out what that looks like. We've got some fixes that will come on some specific issues. That curriculum piece being a good example in the next legislative session. But I think that's why it's really important for us to get out here and talk to the community and talk to people that may ultimately use this so we can learn what we're missing. We can see where we need to shape this better, how we need to expand or contract to make sure that people are protected and that it's used for the purposes that it's supposed to, but that it also creates that educational choice that it's set up to create. So with that, that's kind of the overview. Again, I see this as the first of many. It might not ever be me again. We've hired an executive director who will kind of take lead on this. But our entire office is out and about trying to learn everything we can to make this as good as it can possibly be here. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to field any questions.
I'm going to ask a question.
For sure.
Actually, I'll moderate so that people can hear it online. So who had a question?
I did.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, are you copying a program from some other state or is this all being developed from here?
Yep. So the question was, are we copying from another state or are we developing it all here? We are absolutely copying all the good parts of the other states that are doing this because we can't afford to build it from scratch. Correct, yeah, and that's the differentiator. Every state has a different statutory ability or statutory authority. So the group is either tighter or smaller on who's eligible, or their expenses are broader or narrower. So there's a lot to learn, and we are looking everywhere to make sure we do this absolutely right. Hopefully everybody copies us after Indiana gets ours up and running.
Go ahead.
With the eligibility being the age of 22, if someone applies and they're going to attend a state school, would potentially their part of their tuition be covered under this grant or this?
That's a great question. So the question was, with the age going up to 22, would some part of potentially state tuition or post-secondary education be covered by this grant? And as it's set now, the answer is no. So when you graduate, those expenses, then you can no longer pull a grant. Well, that being said, there is a rollover. You can roll $1,000 a year under the current statute, which stair steps up. So if you're in it for 15 years, if you saved $1,000 a year, you could have $15,000 at the end. You could use that for tuition and fees or things related to the qualified expenses on the list at that point in time. So there was a lot of talk during session on where this should go. Should we use this for that? There was concern that putting that first as opposed to the primary education first with this program could deteriorate just the ability or process for spending on that piece. We've seen some other states that have rollovers to 529s or rollovers to 529As, things like that in it, and those are things that we're looking at But knowing that everybody's educational path is different is really key to this too. So there could be a student by age 14 that's ready to take college classes and is taking them in high school, or taking them not in high school if that's the route you chose to go. Those are covered as tuition and fees. So that being said, when it gets to that endpoint, there will not be a new grant if a graduation certificate has been given, but the money that's left in the account theoretically could be used for specific expenses at that point in time, but not explicitly at this point in time under statute, post-secondary education.
Can you give an example of, let's say, a client that has used this? Like what, I heard you say you have to withdraw from regular school because this is an alternative schooling situation. You need an IEP that's probably very different, and there's accommodation not available through a regular school. Can you give an example of what exactly this is used for?
Yeah. So for those of you online, the question is, can I give some examples of what we see this being used for? And the input here is that an IEP might be very complex, or a school district may not be providing the services. Is that one group? And the answer is yes. And it's hard to give one specific example because we see this as really a very, very open-ended tool that allows you to kind of create an educational process that fits your student. So there could be lots of circumstances where your school district is where you want them to stay for a specific type of learning. And in this, you have to withdraw from the school, so they're not counted in the tuition support, but there's a category of qualified expense which is contracted for services. So theoretically then you could go back to your school district, and we're gonna work hard to get as many school districts as possible kind of in as vendors for this, and hopefully figure out a process for them to get on board. But you would stay there with them, and you would do your 9 to 5, whatever that is for kids, 8 to 3, at that school. And then after school, because that extra grant is there, you could take that extra grant for your disability service that may not, they take the full tuition support for that. You've got that extra $5,000, $2,300, or $9,100, depending on year and level of disability, to get secondary help at a different institution, or find other services, or get occupational therapy to meet their needs in a different way. And the goal here again is that it's very, very free-form. So each individual family, each individual student can put together a structure that works for them. The hard part there is that it's very hard for us to give guidance then from a tiny office in the state government. But what we hope is that we can build a big enough network, a user-friendly enough portal, a way to access the information and connections to those service providers in a way that allows families to kind of figure out what those best steps are. There is a piece of the statute that has the Department of Education have to set up some format of kind of a help group, so it'll be like a service that they have. Looking at other states, we will likely have that internally as well, where the people that go through the process of onboarding qualified expenses and signing up students during that phase of the year will be the ones answering the phone and helping point families in the right directions for what services they're looking for. Or, hey, I've got this great new service provider that's not on your list, how do I get them on? Well, call us, we'll get them into the system, they can get on, have that turnaround quickly so we can keep it moving in the direction of whatever family who has decided to become part of this is trying to move it. So it doesn't really answer your question, but hopefully everybody. Yeah, so the question was, where can we go to monitor progress? We have created a landing page, and in full disclosure, I'm a lawyer, so I'm not great at kind of wording things properly, but we're working on that now. We hired our staff this week. That she started today. It was her first day, or she would have been here with us. But that landing page will be where we will have facts and questions, and frequently asked questions that pop up, we will add an answer. And then as the portal, which is the other piece of this, the build out starts kind of this month, gets up and running, that will be where you can link to that. So that's where participating entities, those vendors will be able to click and sign up and get into the system. This is where families that are interested could sign up and begin a process of creating a user for themselves to get to the point that they're ready to apply when we open the application sometime next summer. So that will be ever evolving. That website is on the Treasurer of State's page, and I do not have that on the top of my head ready to go, but I can shoot it to Kelly and to Cecilia, and they can share it with the group in email form. And that will evolve. Every day we come up with something, we'll be posting more stuff. So right now it's just very simple, the 3 categories I just said, but it will have more and more information as that starts to build itself over the next year. For sure, and that's a great question. That was something that we talked about a ton during session. And the question is, what types of camps? I said the word camp earlier. What are we looking at including in this? And I would say it's super broad. As a lawyer, I brought the statute, so I can read it directly, and we can kind of start there. But it's tuition and fees to attend training programs and camps that have a focus on A, vocational skills, B, academic skills, C, life skills, D, independence, or E, soft skills that are character traits and interpersonal skills that characterize a person's relationship with other people. So it's just about anything that you think under that would be good for your student or would be good for their well-being, and getting part of that educational piece here, moving them towards that end result of being educated the way that they should be and can be, those camps would be included. And we want to be very kind of open with that. To the point that there will be some parameters and there will be some narrowing just to make sure that camps are camps, and that it's not something that could be a harm or something that's trying to take advantage of being in that system. And that's the beauty of it running through us and having that pre-approval, and getting those pre-approvals in early is that we can move through those, get them ready to be providers very quickly, and then when things pop up, we can move new ones in as well. So.
So I apologize, I know nothing about this program except what you said tonight, and so this is all new to me, and having been a part of the disability community for a long time, I know when something this good happens, it gets crushed, right? I mean, like, everybody's gonna come running through the door. So, did you say where this money is coming from?
I've not yet, but
Okay.
I can. Yeah.
And is this approved in the biennium that we're in now, so it's a two-year set aside, or will this be sustainable money that lasts beyond this state budget?
Mm-hmm. That's a phenomenal question. Somebody very astute at state government. So far, it is just an appropriation under the current biennium. So for grants for next year, we have $10 million total dollars, which could limit the population theoretically if enough people apply, and that is more than, or there are more applications than the number of grants we're allowed to give out. We're looking at maybe an average grant amount depending on kind of, it's based on the tuition support plus the complexity index. So you're looking anywhere between about $4,000 and $8,500 where your student is residing, plus then that disability amount on top. So if we do an average kind of theoretical there of $10,000 per student per grant per year, we're looking at maybe 1,000 total grants that first year. Now, looking at other states, which again is where we started a lot of our analysis, we saw uptick in the first year or two because of just not a big knowledge about it and the buildup of the program taking time. Somewhere between maybe 100 to 300, up to maybe 1,000 total students signing up in the first year. So our hope is it's not too broad, like we aren't going to get too many, because the worst kind of case scenario for the first year would be that we have to turn families away that have made the choice to do this, and that is something that we may have to face. The beauty of that is I think it makes it much easier to show the need and the efficacy of this, so that next biennium we say, look, we had 3,000 applications, we got 1,000 in, we had to do, a first in time or a lottery to do that, haven't decided yet kind of what that looks like from an equity perspective or how that works best for the community. But we had to turn 2,000 families away who wanted to make this choice. fund it. And that's what I think ultimately the goal here is, that this would become kind of a line item in that tuition support. So as they do the full calculation of the support going to schools, as the choice scholarship is now, which is the voucher, they add that to a calculation to the school funding as a whole, and then divvy that out based on the number that have applied. So there's no maximum amount there. It's based on how many people sign up and how many people are eligible for it. Same thing theoretically could happen here, where hopefully after we show proof of concept through this pilot, and we show it has had families that are excited about it and that it's helped students attain their educational outcomes in a new way that is good for them, then it's easier for us to come back and expand it to allow for the access to more families. The beauty of that is from, again, a small office and administrative perspective, it gives us a little bit of time to ramp up and build up to see what the actual workloads and workflow we're gonna have are, so we can be absolutely ready for that kind of initial once you open it and everybody's in, this is a hard thing to turn off for families. So we really wanna make sure that we do it right, and do it in a way that it's sustainable on our end, so that we don't get to a point where it's taking somewhere between 30 and 45 days for a payment to move through, which is something they saw in Arizona a few years ago as they were trying to figure out how to make it work right. Again, learned a ton from what others have done before us, and hopefully we can avoid those. But part of that is scaling it properly on our end so that it doesn't become a burden on the people that have signed up.
The good news is that Indiana has a great reputation for paying on time compared to other states. I'm not just saying that because he's up here, but and he's from the treasurer's office. But as a service provider, that has been a joy of being a business in the state of Indiana, is that they do a very nice job of keeping vendors paid timely, whereas states like California, Illinois, some other states that I've been familiar with, people have gone over a year without payment, and people go out of business when they're not paid to do services. So that is good news. Did you say $10 million per year in the biennium, or $10 million across the biennium?
It's just $10 million for grants in next year. So this year there will be no grants. Obviously, we're trying to stand it up. They gave us $3 million to start it and to get the program set and to build out all the infrastructure we need. And that's all administrative costs this year, and then $10 million next year for hopefully all for grants. Some of it maybe could be used
For your
for
salary?
administrative. No, mine's completely from another source, which,
Just kidding.
no, it's okay.
So for those of you that don't do the state government understanding, as well as those of us who live it every day, the biennium starts July 1st, and the fiscal year of the state is from July through June 30th. So what you're talking about is the second year in the biennium starts July 1st, 2022.
Correct, yeah. And those grants will start, and I didn't say that, there'll be quarterly payments through the school year. And it'll start in that first kind of quarter in next school year. So the 2022, 2023, whether that's August, September, or the end of July, whenever school starts now, it's changes every year. Summer goes away. But whenever that is, the first disbursement from that grant will be then, and then it will be quarterly throughout the rest of the year.
I have one more question. You may not know the answer to. So, and you may not be able to tell us the answer, but there are people in this room who have been in every iteration of public school, private tutoring, aging out, all of the things. And so let's say I just got out of my I'm 18, and I just went through my 12th year at Hamilton Southeastern. And I heard there's a really super cool program at Janus that is all about building the bridge to college. Okay, and I'm ready for that. I'm not quite ready for college, but I'm ready to go to this program. My parents and I have to make a decision if I'm mature enough to not be a part of the public school system to be eligible. But is that what you foresee, is that it's a way for families to know that this program exists, and that it's almost like you're matching them through scholarship to help them participate in that, separate from other layers of funding like the waiver or straight Medicaid or anything like that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and something absolutely to think about. The beauty of this is it's open-ended. So you get your grant, you can spend it on the educational needs you see for your family and for your student. So,
But from a vendor list.
yeah, and it's our specific. So we have to approve all participating entities. And those would be qualified expenses under that camp provision that I read. And I could see in a lot of cases, part of the planning here, especially with that rollover piece, would be to be prepared for that graduation date and then that next step, which may be necessary, of preparing for college. And maybe not the expenses of college themselves, as we already talked about, but those educational needs that may exist between that space or in a way are on top of what could be just through the regular education process. Planning for those is now something that can be done with this account. So that's hopefully, absolutely the intent is to allow this to hit that exact space.
Awesome.
Just curious, if there's funding within this program for transportation to where the students will need to go.
Yep, so transportation, and it's for fee, and that's the specific language is fees for transportation paid to a fee-for-service transportation provider. And it's capped right now in a later section at $750 per year. And that's something, again, as we get more feedback, if that's enough or not enough, that would be something really, really good to kind of figure out and understand. So we built it based on kind of language from other states and concepts they had come up with. And one of the reasons there's a cap on it is trying to eliminate, the purchase of a car or payment for other things like that, because it's the education side stuff that we're trying to cover with this expense. So really kind of narrowly tailoring specific things that could be used for something that's outside the scope of education. That's a good example of one that has been narrowed in other places because of not like illegal expenses, just kind of inappropriate ones or ones that didn't fit with that educational merit of this funding. So, but again, that's great feedback there on that would be phenomenal to kind of help us shape that to make sure that the fee for service is right, that we're not overlooking other categories of transportation that might be required, and that threshold is enough. That being said, there will always probably likely be a review process where if there is a qualified expense or an expense that is not necessarily qualified under whatever rules we have to pass is something that's necessary, that there could be a kind of external way around that. We've got to keep that moderately narrow. But all of that is good food for thought as we continue to shape this over the next year.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Give him a round
absolutely.
of applause. Thanks for sharing your time.
Yep.
And so, once you've left the school system and you've gotten this amazing scholarship to pay for this cool stuff, and now you're ready to go get additional educational things, you might have a 529, or you would have an ABLE account that helps with ongoing services. And we are going to have Amy Corbin, the executive director of Invest and Able. Is that how you say it? Invest. Invest Able. To talk a little bit more about the ABLE accounts, which, we know, Amy, you're a friend of us, and come on up, don't be afraid. You're specifically going to help us understand the Age Adjustment Act, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So many of you who are here tonight are familiar in some capacity with ABLE accounts. But for those of you who are not, I'll give you a high-level overview. I also brought some brochures and my card if you'd like to connect later or go online and explore the program a little bit more. Specifically, ABLE accounts allow for certain individuals with disabilities to save money and not lose their benefits. So an ABLE account protects an individual's resources. Typically, when an individual is receiving benefits like Medicaid or SSI, they're capped at $2,000 as to the amount that they can sort of have in their name or personal bank account or savings account. An ABLE account protects that resource limit and allows them to save more money on top of that. There is certain eligibility criteria that an individual has to meet to be eligible for an ABLE account, and that is that the onset of disability must have been present before the age of 26, and if they're receiving SSI or SSDI, they're eligible. If they're not receiving either of those two benefits, because they do not need to be receiving benefits to be eligible, they have to be able to provide or state that they have on record a doctor's qualifying disability of significant functional impairment. So specifically, the ABLE Age Adjustment Act seeks to increase the age of onset from 26 to 46, potentially expanding our able-eligible population by 6 million more individuals, including 1 million veterans that might be eligible under able age adjustment. So tonight, here to provide you those bill numbers, ways that you can advocate for the Able Age Adjustment Act if you would feel so driven. But the Able Age Adjustment Act in the House is H.R. 1219, and the Senate bill is S331. If you go to nast.org, that's nast.org/able, A-B-L-E, you can find an Able Age Adjustment Act toolkit that gives examples of letters to your congressman, how to contact those individuals, those representatives in Congress, and examples for op-eds, that sort of thing. You can even take the information provided and craft your own message and give them a call. So we're really looking for individuals who have a passion for advocacy and feel driven to reach out to their members of Congress to advocate for this Age Adjustment Act. Currently, we have about 1,000 individuals enrolled in Indiana's Invest Able Indiana program, just over $8 million in assets under management in our program. The average account balance is over $8,000, so that's a far cry from that $2,000 cap that individuals are held to when receiving certain benefits. But if an individual, I mentioned that they do not have to be receiving benefits to qualify for an ABLE account. So to expand a little bit more on your ABLE knowledge, for those of you who are not that familiar, the second key benefit to having an ABLE account is that there's tax advantage savings with them. So similar to a 529, post-tax dollars fund the account and the money grows and is withdrawn tax-free as long as it's used for qualified expenses. So tagging onto that key term that Ryan was just speaking on, those qualified expenses, with an ABLE account is also very broad, in so much that it includes really anything that helps improve the individual's health, independence, or quality of life. So it could be transportation costs, it could be education costs, it could be work preparedness. So if they're receiving services through Voc Rehab, and there's something that maybe Voc Rehab or Medicaid isn't fully covering, and they'd like to receive a different service, and they could tap into their ABLE account to help pay for that expense in that way. So it's really, really broad. ABLE accounts were purposefully constructed that way to make it so that the accounts can really help improve their quality of life. There are certain savings and contribution limits with ABLE accounts. If an individual is receiving SSI, they can save up to a maximum of $100,000 in their account. If they're not receiving SSI and are receiving other benefits or no benefits, they can save up to a maximum of $450,000 in their Invest Able account. But up to $15,000 per year can be contributed into that account. If an individual is working, $15,000 a year. If they're working and they have earned income and they are not participating in an employer-sponsored retirement program, they can contribute above that $15,000 amount. So a certain added incentive for individuals who are working and would like to save for their future, whether it be retirement, end-of-life costs, that sort of thing. I mentioned the tax advantage savings, so we do offer 6 different investment options as well as a low interest-bearing checking account that comes with a debit card for an individual. So it can be a really great opportunity for young adults or individuals who have never really known how to, or learned how to manage their money on their own, to work side by side with a trusted partner to learn how to manage their money and live independently and achieve financial stability. So that's a very high-level overview. Again, I have brochures, enrollment, and lots of information is all available and done online at our website, and that's in.savewithable.com, in.savewithable.com. So please, I'm happy to answer questions up here. I didn't want to go too deep into the granular details of the program because many of you are familiar, and I'm specifically here again asking for your help and your support in advocating for the Able Age Adjustment Act, because I think it would be really wonderful to get those added, potentially 6 million plus individuals eligible now for ABLE and increase our eligible population. That honestly almost doubles the number of individuals who are currently eligible under ABLE, and that's currently it's about 8,000 So it would be a wonderful thing to see. So happy to answer questions.
One quick question, is there any limit on what it can't be spent, taken out for?
Is there any limit or limitation on what it cannot be spent on? That's probably an easier way to paint the picture of what is a qualified expense, because honestly, I have a lawyer in the room that I need to be careful. But I'm not a lawyer. I cannot provide tax or legal advice as it relates to qualified expenses. But a good rule of thumb would be not to use it for engaging in illegal activity, buying alcohol, cigarettes, gambling, that sort of thing. But it really, really is broad. So if the expense can somehow be tied to that individual living with their unique disability and can, again, improve their health, independence, or quality of life. So very, very broad. Yes.
Did you say the age limit was, if I heard you right, you said the age limit was 26 to 46?
So the Age Adjustment Act seeks to increase the eligible age for individuals from 26 to 46. So currently, to be eligible for an ABLE account, they must have had their onset of disability before that age of 26. So if we get that increased to 46, then the onset of disability would have to be before the age of 46. So again, that's the age limit that age adjustment seeks to achieve. Any other questions? Yes, Kat.
So I know you were saying like typically people think of ABLE accounts as funded by families or individuals.
Mhm.
Can anyone participate? So if I want to get Brian, her son, $5,000 in his ABLE account, can I do that like I would in a 529?
Yes, great question. So she's asking basically who can contribute into an ABLE account. Anyone can contribute into an ABLE account. I'm so glad you mentioned this. And with Indiana's program, we have something that's called UGIFT, that the account owner or their authorized individual, so a mom or dad, parent, guardian, can activate under the account owner's account and send it out for birthday, holiday, graduation, special occasions. Say, I don't need any more toys for my child. I don't want money gifted directly to my loved one because it's going to affect their benefits. Please fund their ABLE account. So you can sort of crowdsource or crowdfund your ABLE account. But all contributing sources cannot exceed that $15,000 cap per year. But yes, anyone can contribute into the account. Any other questions? All right, I'll leave this information up there if you'd like to pick it up later.
Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
Give her a round of applause. So next on the agenda is one of the things I'm most excited about. Being in my role as Fishers Advisory co-chair, I'm just really, really excited about Thrive Social Club. So come on up, Mary. I believe you and Lauren, who is a member of Thrive, are going to give us an update on what's happening with the social club.
I'm gonna try to share. Oh, it worked. So I'm not really good with technology, so it worked. This is our logo. We're very proud of it. We use it a lot. So Thrive Social Club, if you don't know about Thrive Social Club, is a social club for adults with intellectual disabilities. It was started as sort of an outgrowth of this committee. And so I'm going to give you a little update. We started it about a year ago. So 1 year in, here's the numbers. We've got 75 members now, which we're very excited about. We had a big pool party, pool bash. It was huge. 60 people attended. On average, we get about 10 members attending each event. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the events, and I've got a little video with that kind of shows some of the things that we've done that's fun. We have about 4 events per month, and that's increased tremendously because of our friend Lauren over here. She's our concert committee chairperson. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. And then, so we have 2, like, where the board comes to the events, and then Lauren does some additional events. We have 2 potential Thrive clubs that want to begin in other areas. There's a group in kind of Westfield Carmel that wants to start one, and we've gotten some interest from Indianapolis, so we're hoping that, maybe this will happen and we can kind of cross boundaries and go to some of their events. They can come to some of our events and just, this is a fun thing and it's been really positive. So we've got one new board member, Terry Smith, who's a huge advantage to us. She's a comptroller for a software company here in Fishers, and so she's just really gotten us organized. So we're a 501(c)(3) now, C3, I don't say that right. So really glad that we have Terry, because obviously that's not my forte. So, and then we've got these, we're gonna try to do more of this, but Lauren's a huge success. We've got Lauren here as our committee chairperson for our concerts. So she's got a sign, and she wants to do a concert. She puts the sign out and attends, and I put a big email out, and we get all kinds of people. So I'll show you some of the pictures from some of that. So why we do it, so beyond high school, if you don't know about Thrive, beyond high school, the adults with intellectual disabilities generally have very few social opportunities, so we've created this to help with, that situation. Often it's a transportation issue, a social skills kind of issue, so this has been really successful. We're having fun. And they just want to hang out with their friends and do age-appropriate things. And we try to do activities on the weekend, because that's when you want to be doing these kinds of things. So, we generally keep it here in Fishers, but we're not opposed to doing things outside of Fishers. So, and it's a really great byproduct of this is a lot of the young adults that are in their 20s that have left school 4 or 5 years ago are now reconnecting with their high school buddies. It's really cool to see. Chrissy's back there shaking her head. She's like, my people are getting together again. So yeah, it's been great. So what have we done so far? We started it 1 year ago. Our first event was cleaning up a park. It was the Fishers cleanup thing, and we started it in the middle of COVID, which I was kind of like, okay, let's give it a go. So we cleaned up a park, and we've done like hikes. We try to keep it kind of COVID friendly, hikes and pizza outdoors. We've done a couple of dance parties at 317, the Street Dance Academy. I didn't know anything about that, and you didn't see me down there dancing, but the kids had a great time. We've done bowling nights, which the guys love. We've had them attend in a big way at the bowling nights. And then the big pool party, and then our concerts, which Lauren has been involved with. So, Lauren, did you have something you wanted to talk about at all? No? Okay, I'm gonna show you a video of what we've been doing. This is some of the stuff we've been doing. So that's Thrive. We're having a great time. You'll notice that there were a lot of parents there as well, and it's just been such a great way to connect families and, open up these networks that, after having left school, those networks just kind of disappear. So it's been a really, really good thing. And you can see we like to dance, so that's a big thing. So that's Thrive.
Any questions for Mary or Lauren? I have a question for Lauren. What was your favorite concert gathering this summer? Probably Bruno Mars.
Bruno
You guys
Mars.
did the Bruno Mars tribute band?
Oh, yeah.
And how many folks did you guys have? We had a lot. We had a good turnout. And are you coordinating everybody when they get there, keeping them in line?
They're rowdy.
I heard you did a fantastic job as a leader, and the city of Fishers is super proud of what you guys are doing.
Great.
Lauren, Lauren, so I work with students that are getting close to being done with school. So a lot of them work for 18 to 26. So if I'm trying to convince them why they need to go to Thrive, what would be some key things you think I could tell them? Probably it's something to do on the weekends instead of just staying at home or nothing. Because I know I get tired of that. Do you guys talk to the groups, plan what you're going to do? Yeah. Unless you decide that you're going to go to concert? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And we encourage exchanging phone numbers if they want to help. Connect up. We've read everything at Thrive.
Chrissy, as a representative of HSC schools, since we have Thrive here, would there be an opportunity for Lauren and Mary to come and talk to the folks at HSC schools who might be ready for transitioning in the next year out of their public education? A parent night? But you would be more than happy to have Thrive come talk, right? There you go. I think I might know somebody. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, number 4, updates from Kelly Hartman. That's me. There are a number of things happening. We'll start with South Point Village. As many of you already know, South Point Village is well under construction, targeted to be completed this fall. Last I heard, they were still on target to be ready for new residents to move in probably by the end of October or sometime in November. For those of you who are not familiar with South Point Village, it is the first ever, after many, many attempts, to have an affordable housing, it's an apartment complex here in Fishers, an affordable housing complex that was developed by Real America. The unique thing about this particular development is that to qualify to be in this community, they had to set aside so many units for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to live in their community. And also they set aside a number of units for people to join the workforce in the community of Fishers who may not have been able to join as into our Fishers community by nature of how much they made per year. So I know from partners like OPG, Opportunities for Positive Growth, I think I saw Michelle here. Michelle, Outside the Box, Janus, Insights Consulting, we're all very excited to partner and help South Point Village get the kind of start that they will find to be quite successful in this community. And for those of you who may not yet be interested, but find yourself attracted to this and can get in there, know that also along with the Real America development starting to open, Janus has partnered with Real America and will be providing some community-based, I would say, more community-based than facility-based day programming for folks in the Fishers community using South Point in their partnership, using South Point kind of as a hub. And so I know that Yolanda, if you've not met her, you should tonight, would be happy to answer questions about how that's rolling, but it will be an opportunity for additional programming in Fishers. Secondly, State of Indiana initiatives. We continue to hear things about waiver redesign for the family support waiver and the community integration and habilitation waiver. Both of those things continue to roll on. There is a lot of public comment periods that are out there now, so if you haven't seen that, make sure you go to the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services website, and I can get information for the minutes so that you can provide public comment to those things that are out there. Obviously, a lot of the creativity and innovation we were all hoping for has been thwarted a little bit with COVID. It seems like every conversation we have about innovation the sentence ends with, and then there was COVID, right? So certainly we're in hopes of seeing the waivers be able to provide more flexibility, choice, independence, and empowerment for folks who are using those services. But I'm also excited to hear things about, like the programs we've heard tonight, where families will have additional options and not be reliant on one funding source for their loved one to participate fully in the community. I will say, and this is just this little thing, I'm putting it out there, there are rumors, it's not really a rumor, I got a memo about it from somebody important, that something about the most recent governor's orders have disallowed any non-licensed Medicaid provider, which could be anybody that's doing rec therapy, behavior therapy, music therapy, and many, many behavioral consultants, are no longer allowed to do telehealth. Hold on. So that is what people believe happened last week. We have not gotten official word. I am convinced that that was an unintended consequence of writing a public health order that kind of contradicts, to be honest with you, it contradicts our federal rule, which is this is all about what the individual needs to participate in their community services. So we are sorting it out. I am on top of it. I will send out information to this group as soon as I know more. I am lobbying hard, as are many others, to get it straightened out before it becomes rule. But that is happening. And so, as many of you know, there was something called Appendix K, which is like an addendum to the existing waiver program in the division that allows for us to have some flexibilities of how services are delivered, and that is intended to last 6 months beyond the end of the public health emergency. So let's pretend, wouldn't this be awesome? Let's say the end of this month, COVID goes away. Woo! Then 6 months beyond that, we would still have these Appendix K flexibilities. And so that is where some of this misunderstanding or need for clarification comes. If you've heard that rumor, don't panic, don't go into any crazy means. We're gonna get the right answer and figure out what we need to do to move forward for the best interest of the folks who are receiving services. Yes, Michelle?
Kelly, do you need help with advocating for this, or are you all good, or do you need other, do you need backup?
If I need backup, I promise you I'll let you know. We're not there yet.
Okay.
I think that there was an immediate understanding, well, that this is A, B, and C is happening, and we were all like, oh, no, A, B, C, no, those things can't happen, right? So there's really a conflict between what the governor's order said and Appendix K, well, client choice and the home and community-based services, there's some conflict, and so we're gonna get it straightened out, and as soon as I know more information, I will certainly share that. Oh yeah, if it comes that like I feel like I need an army, I will enlist all of you as soldiers, for sure. It is, I think, it's a challenge. It's a significant challenge. The last thing I want to give you guys an update on, and I'm not very good at keeping secrets, so the fact that I can finally stand in front of you and say this, I'm very excited about it. You might remember that I was asked to represent you at the Recreation Center. The Community Rec Center had a steering committee where Todd Zimmerman and leadership did this amazing job and pulled together the document. I hope you all have had a chance to see that. It is a really beautiful document. Currently, they are to the process of having an RFP, which is a request for proposal, which means they're asking people, vendors out there who are interested in different parts of the rec center to put in a proposal and, I can't look at you, it's just somebody smiling at me, and to put in the bid. So at this point, the location has not been solidified. What you may know is that we were looking at rec and fine arts, like a community arts center, to be all in the same building. That has been divided now. There will be a recreation center. Think of an aquatics, indoor walking track, some fields that will serve the recreation piece of it. And then there's going to be a separate location, which is going to be located where City Hall, this building, where City Hall currently is. This building will go away and a new building will be erected, and that will be for the arts part of the rec center. I stand in front of you and share with you an update on Outside the Box. I know you know that I'm also associated with Outside the Box, and people have been asking what is happening with Outside the Box. So I want to let you know that I've been given permission to say this in public. This is not in ink. This is not contracted yet. This is in collaboration and partnership. But the mayor's office for the city of Fishers reached out to Outside the Box as a partner in doing adaptive sports programming and being a partner in helping the rec center be inclusive in this community to get our folks involved in every layer, whether it's employment in the rec center, part of programming, if we need to do specialized programming, that Outside the Box would sort of be the content expert to help the city with that. And in part, the other part of that is that the invitation came with the recreation center will be the forever home of Outside the Box's day program. So the city would provide us space in a rec center. Okay, let me just say for a second, imagine this. You have an adult child who's just left school, and forever in this community, you have fallen off of a cliff of no programming. And now you may have the opportunity for your son or daughter to participate in aquatics and a walking track and sports programming as part of their day programming, done by Outside the Box and layered with our ability to also take waiver programming. And so there's very, very little detail, but I was given permission to say it out loud because we've been looking for a forever home forever and ever. And I think I could probably quote Mayor Fadness in the meeting when he said, "This gives me a way to build a beautiful bridge for something that the citizens of this city very much need to be included in Fishers." So I want to thank you guys and Cecilia, your leadership that's lasted long beyond me being a part of this. There are a number of people in this room that have fought long and hard for something like this to happen, and I'm pretty excited about Outside the Box being the chosen partner to move forward. So obviously we will keep you posted on that. And like I said, it's not real yet. Like no press releases, but I got permission to say we are in collaboration for Outside the Box to find their forever home in the rec center. So I continue to be an open ear just as the co-chair and continuing to give information to the city of Fishers on how that looks for people within Fishers who may learn differently or may need different services or programming. We continue to take input. Nothing's been built yet, so this is an evolving idea, but Outside the Box will be the partner with the city to make that happen for inclusive programming, and we're excited about that. I've been waiting to say that. It's very exciting. Thank you. Also, I'll let Cecilia come up here now, because since you're here, can I stop talking? I'd like to take a deep breath. And talk about the March Disability Awareness stuff.
Yes. Well, as you can see, I'm just so proud of our community, of the collaboration that we've had with the City of Fishers, our mayor, his staff, the community and partnership that this group, the Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability, is making a difference in our community. And every day, today I saw some of the Lawrence Advisory Committee people, and they're like, we're still not where you are, and baby steps, but we're really the forerunners and the pioneers and the people that are making a difference. So I want to just thank all of you for being a part of this group. I know that everyone's really busy, but the fact that you're here, you know, we are here for the quarterly meetings to provide information, to provide ways in which we can engage each other and collaborate and work together. And so one of the things we want to talk about kind of as a group is what we want to do for 2022 March Disability Awareness Month. And I truly feel this was the first committee and initiative that we did as a Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability. This was the first thing that we championed, and this was the catalyst that made everything happen. So I'm really proud to say and happy to say that we are partnering again with One Zone. So they will do a One Zone chamber lunch on March 9th. So we are looking for a headliner speaker. So we need ideas on some fresh ideas about how we can either share more information about how businesses can employ people with disabilities. We can also share information about accessibility and working with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, how those businesses can provide accessibility and really work to embrace those clients, those customers into their offices and their businesses. They're also going to do a caffeinated conversation with small business groups on March 22nd. We're doing the March 1st kickoff here at City Hall, so we're looking for also a headliner for our kickoff event. We've always highlighted someone from our community that's made a difference, someone with a disability that has been an advocate, someone who has shown a lot of success, whether in the school environment, in athletics, in whatever endeavor they might be doing. So we're looking for those ideas. There's talk about featuring some feature documentaries, like a little small film festival that we could highlight some films that document and share stories about people with disabilities overcoming challenges and sharing their stories. Of course, you need to save the date for My Point of View Day, breakfast with the mayor, and hopefully that will be an in-person event, and we don't have a date yet for that, but it's usually towards the end of the month. We collaborate with the Fishers Arts Council with an arts reception at Conner Prairie. And then new last year, but we're going to continue forward, is being an ally and trying to share our stories about being a disability ally, and with posters and t-shirts and sharing stories, blogging and everything. So right now, I guess what I kind of wanted to get from the group is maybe some ideas on a theme for this coming year. I also would like to encourage everyone and invite you to be a part of our March Disability Awareness Month committee. We're meeting for the first time September 21st at Chicago's Pizza for a working lunch at 11:30. And so we'll get everyone together. So if you're interested in being a part of that committee this year, please let me know, and we'd love to have you. So I'm going to kind of leave it open right now to see if people would like to share maybe some thoughts, ideas. We want to try to change things and continue, and we'd love to hear any thoughts. Stacy.
I know they want us to come up to the mics and this, if they're streaming, so. I'm
Sure.
gonna come up there, okay. I'm Stacy Oldham, for those who don't know. Been with this committee since, pretty much the beginning. And so as I looked back on what could be our theme this year, last year we talked about community. And bringing community together. Well, where we started in this was all about education. People didn't know what disability was. So when you look at the span of, are we on 6th year, 7th year? You look at just simply awareness and education all the way up to, we've got places for someone with a disability to live with wraparound services. See the gamut that we've come, and becoming community together. So I looked at 2022, and I looked at joining together as a possible theme. The word together is important, I think, because we're not only coming together in this community, we still are meshing together, but we look at Lawrence, who's all of a sudden saying, help us. We want to do the same thing that you're doing. We have Carmel that has stepped forward and said, we're trying to do this too. I've got someone in the room from Westfield. What if togetherness in this particular year of 2022 becomes breaking boundaries, I'm gonna say, breaking barriers and boundaries. So 2022, joining together, breaking barriers and boundaries. There are boundaries still within this particular community that we're still overcoming, like transportation. But think about transportation, as I have Janice in the room. People are saying, we need more. We need it to go over the line of 96th Street. So I propose something like this as the theme, that we don't just stop with Fishers this year, that we say we're going to go ahead with more partnerships across the lines, and we're going to take this awareness and the things that we've built here and try to draw others in so that more people across the county, those with physical and intellectual disabilities, have a place to go where people understand. So that is my proposal. I think was even talking about some of that socialization going outside of Fishers. I was taking some notes as we talked transportation again. More housing opportunities. If you know anything about Lawrence, they have a housing facility. I've seen it all over Facebook lately. They're advertising that they have space for those with intellectual and physical disabilities. They have a whole place. Carmel is building something that's a whole community. We have something here, so there's another broad spectrum that affects a lot of people. The job possibilities across boundaries. You know, we want to hire people here in Fishers. Definitely need that. We have a hard time keeping Starbucks open right now. So I guess one of the questions is, how far do we reach out? My opinion is, as far as we need to maximize resources, to achieve independence, inclusion, and accessibility for all. So 2022, joining together is my proposal. Okay.
Thank you, Stacy. And Stacy, you've been very valuable in so many ideas, and we really appreciate your thoughts, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. Anybody else? I mean, this is kind of an open forum. Like I said, some of you have been to some of the events. We had wanted to do a lot more before, COVID hit, and that kind of squashed our things. But I'm open to hear any other suggestions or thoughts in terms of theme, any powerful speakers that you guys know in the community. Anybody? And that's okay. You can think about it a little bit more. Yes? Okay, Danny O'Malia, you said?
Is a professional speaker, and he has a passion for diverse buildings. And so that's something that they incorporated early on at the supermarket chain, and he continues to work in our communities to further,
Okay, thank you. Yes, we'll take a look at that. In the years past, we've had Noah Malone. I don't know if you guys have been following him, the Paralympian. He's been doing awesome, winning a lot of medals. He was one of our speakers before, so we've had a lot of dynamic people. We prefer maybe they come from our community, but sometimes, it's not always the case, but around the area from Indiana, we could maybe entertain someone at a national level as well, someone that you think might be a great person to have. Wilbur.
I just had a question. Do we have anybody in the Paralympics from Fishers? I don't know the answer to that.
Noah Malone, There's another gentleman, Craig Peterson. He's a runner through the Indiana Special Olympics, and he's from the Indianapolis area. So that's okay. Well, I want you to think about it, and like I said, we need ideas. We're looking for some fresh ideas. Please plan on coming September 21st, and reach out to me if you'd like to be a part of our committee this year. announcements. I know there's some events coming up, and I didn't know if anyone wants to come up and share any kind of announcements that might be happening with regard to the disability community. I know there's a pool, right, for, I believe it's Hamilton County Special Olympics down at the airport, the airplane pool. It's this weekend. It's September 11th. Thrive is having an event, and that is at team. That Thrive is having a team at the plane pool. Do you have any details on that, Mary? Okay, we could, to benefit Special Olympics down at the airport. I think Autism Society of Indiana, don't they have, what is the name of the gentleman? Savage?
On
Sunday,
Sunday, September 12th.
September 12th.
We're having an event at the
Club at Chatham Hills in Westfield, and that is the gentleman who's performing is Max Savage. Okay.
He's an autism advocate and a jazz pianist virtuoso. He started life early, not being able to tolerate any sound, and through early intervention discovered he actually had a joy and talent for music. He's a prodigy. We've been trying to get him to come for 20 years.
Wow.
20
Okay.
years we've been working on getting him to come here, and so he will be at the club at Chatham Hills performing, showing himself at 3 o'clock. But the best part is we're all about accessibility, right? So there's a ticket, the concert has a ticket fee. We have a vendor fair and a resource fair that is free to the public. So we asked the question, how many individuals have ever had access to a country club or anything like that? And so the answer was, I think there was 3 people who raised their hand. And so really this concert is focused on accessibility. It's focused on creating and rebuilding Carter's Play Place in Westfield as a resource for all of us in Hamilton County. And Max Savage is going to really help kick that off with that vendor fair at 12:30, opens us up until 2:30. And then the concert kicks off at 3 with local performers, students, 2 of which are on autism spectrum. And then Matt will take the stage with local musicians at 3.
Okay.
So information is available at ccrewindiana.org, or you can talk to me and Joanne. Joanne is on our board as well, over at Carter's Crew. So that's what we are looking to do.
So that event is for Carter's place. What's it called? Carter's. Okay, and it's Matt Savage, right? Matt, and he is a prodigy pianist, and the money goes to help support that organization. And there's a vendor fair at 12:30, and then the concert starts at 3. And you can get tickets at, what was the site again? ccrewindiana.org. Okay, for those people watching live stream right now, so they want to let them know. Kelly, any other announcements?
I just have a couple of things to add to what you said. Number one, because the community and this committee specifically have been supportive of Noah's journey, his mom had reached out with, appreciation for what this committee has done. And they wanted to let you guys know that he brought home 3 medals. One, there was a gold medal in the 4x100, and 2 silvers, one in the 400 meter and one in the 100 meter. So really successful trip to Tokyo, and Mom and Noah were just thankful for the support that we've given him, and this community means a lot to them. So wanted to let you know that. And then secondly, wanted to just say one thing that you and I had talked about as far as March Disability Awareness goes, especially for those of you that will be coming to the meeting or might know someone who's coming to the meeting on September 21st as we start to get organized. I would think about what we've done in the past, and much like Stacy said, what kind of new relationships and new ways can we engage our community? What could we possibly add to the agenda for the month that might be different than what we've done in the past? I know Cecilia and I and the committee would love to hear more about your ideas of how we could reach people differently this March. Any other announcements?
This year,
Come
on up, Tom. Tom, president of the Fishers Arts Council, is gonna come up and share his thoughts. They have been an amazing partner for our March Disability Awareness Month and just overall supporting people with disabilities.
Thank you. You know, every February we do Embracing Black Culture, and every March we do March Disabilities Awareness. Well, we're trying to expand outside that box. And this year we had our Art on the Prairie, which was the first year we've done that. We partnered with Connor Prairie. And what we'd like to do is any organization that has an art program, we would like to invite you to be a part of that. This year we had 3 groups. We had Janus, we had Outside the Box, and we had Art Mix. And they had tables there and they sold art alongside the other juried artists. And again, we don't want to be thinking of people just in March or just in February because they're part of a minority group. If we're talking about inclusion, then you've got to be including them throughout the year as well. So if you do have any desire to be a part of that, you can reach us at info@fishersartscouncil.org. That's info@fishersartscouncil.org. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tom. So with that, I guess we are going to adjourn and end a little bit early. I do want everyone to go ahead and mark your calendars for the last quarterly meeting of the Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability. It's scheduled for Tuesday, December 7th from 5:30 to 7:30 here at City Hall. We'll be sending out an agenda. And feel free to stay and network with the people that are here, and we appreciate you being here, and thank you for coming this evening.